Hi there. This is a video for those of you who will be taking any of Math 052, 053, 072, 073, or 075 with me online this term. The video will begin with a few minutes of just general information that's common to all of those courses. And then after that, you'll either be watching the 052, 053, 075 video, which will explain how to use My Open Math, which is the platform that you will be using, or you'll be watching the 072, 073 video, which will explain how to use the Pearson My Math Lab platform, which is what you will be using. So, but like I said, we begin with some common stuff to everybody. So first of all, the section of math that you are registered in is what we call online, self-paced, and asynchronous. Very quickly, let me explain what that means. Online, I think, is fairly obvious. It means we do not meet in person. You will be working from probably your own house or perhaps some other place where you have a good secure internet connection. And self-paced, also I think fairly obvious. You will not, I do not dictate the pace at which you work. There are not set test dates. You rate the unit tests when you complete the units and you're ready for the test. And there are not set meeting times. So we don't, that's asynchronous. So the final one, asynchronous, means there are not set meeting times. We don't all get together as a class. You are working at the times that are most convenient for you. There is an online platform which has an e-textbook, worked examples, teaching videos, and other types of resources like that to help you learn the material. And I am here to support you through video chats or emailed questions or different methods like that for when the resources that are there you need a little bit of extra help, or maybe you need to get a start into a new unit or something like that. We can meet online and I can sort of get you set up to start. So briefly, some advantages and disadvantages to this type of delivery method. Many students find this really, really works for them, and definitely some students find this is not the best method of delivery for them. So advantages, you are not stuck to your instructor's timelines or schedule. So that both goes on a week-to-week basis. There aren't, as I said, there's not set class times you have to attend. You can find the times that are convenient for you to be working on your math. It also goes on a sort of longer term. You might look at the whole term and say, wow, I have lots of free time right now for the next 3 weeks, but then who knows, maybe you're flying out of town to help organize your sister's wedding or something, right? And you're not going to get any math done for that 2 weeks. So you can work now while you have time and get ahead so that you don't fall behind later on. So lots of flexibility in terms of when you do that work. Included also in that ability to work ahead is that if you have multiple courses that you are hoping to complete, upgrading courses that you need to complete, you're not actually constricted to only one course per term. So if you are in Math 052 and you work your way through and you finish the course in a month and a half, and the term still has 2.5 months to go, you can move right into Math 053 and carry on. You can actually complete more than one course per term if you are motivated and able to work through the material fast enough. One more advantage rather is that if suddenly and unexpectedly some life situations come up and you are just not able to work for a couple of weeks, in a regular paced class, especially a math class, that would probably be it. You usually can't recover from missing 2 weeks of a math class at the college level. That would be it for your term. Rare exceptions, but for the most part. But in a self-paced class, if suddenly something comes up and you have to move or something and you have no time to work for a week or two, That's okay. You just come back to it. When you have the time, you pick up right where you left off and you keep going. You got to make up that time, of course, but it doesn't sink your entire term just because something comes up for a couple weeks. Disadvantages. The big one here is that you really need to be self-motivated and structured in your ability to work on the material regularly. It is very easy to procrastinate and not get anything done. You have to get in there, even when it gets frustrating, even when you don't understand something. You need to get in there, do the work, reach out to me for the help, not just turn your computer off and leave it for weeks on end and suddenly the term's over and you haven't completed a course, you haven't even completed a unit or something, right? So that's the pros and the cons of this delivery method. Yeah, and later on in the video, I will give you some suggested timelines specific to the course that you're in about how often you need to complete a unit, how much you need to try and get done every day, for example, in order to finish the course within the term, if that's your goal. We're going to look quickly at the course outlines here. It is required that I go through these with you. Do it fairly fast, but you're going to find that most of the information that you need in the course is actually on the online platforms you're using. So here we have Math 052, Math 053, 075, 072, and 073. So there's every one of you, of course, has your own course outline because the material you're learning is all different in each course. However, the general overview of this course outline is quite similar for all of you. So let's just go through this really fast. This is from a prior term, so please don't look at the specifics of the office hours and that stuff, because it'll be different. So take a look at the one that I send you for this term. But what I want to point out here is my email, best way to get a hold of me, and this link right here, which is our online, my online classroom. That is, if we ever have any kind of meeting where we get together to answer some questions or go through anything, that is where it'll be. So you might want to bookmark that. Scrolling down, you'll see there are some in-person options for help. Both I will have some, and again, they will be different than what's shown here. So take a look at the course outline I send you. And then also there are some general ones from Camosun that you might be able to make use of if you want to go in for some in-person help. Scrolling down here, we got a big list. That's not all that useful, but if you're interested, it lists everything that's in your course. And again, I'm just looking at the Math 052 course here. Every one of yours, again, is going to be different for each of those courses. This is potentially helpful. Some people like to make use of this. This shows section by section what you have, the sections you have to work through, the material you have to learn. Some people like to use this as a little checkbox to sort of track for themselves where they're at in the course and how much they've done. Here we have a calculation of your final grade. So once you have completed all the unit tests and the final exam, this is how your grade would be calculated. Now let's just diverge off here for a second, because there are some options here in terms of your final grade. If you are in Math 052, 053, 072, or 073, one of a few different things can happen. If you do complete the course by the end of this term, then I will give you a letter grade as calculated by that calculation that will show there on your course outline, and that will translate into an A+ or a B- or whatever it is. For those courses there, if you do not complete the course by the end of the term, but you have made significant progress, and what that usually means is that you've completed at least one unit, and you intend to carry on into the next term, I'm actually able to give you an IP, an in progress, and this is another one of the huge advantages of the self-paced model. So instead of failing the course and having to restart from scratch the next term, you can actually pick up right where you left off the next term. You have to register again, and you have to make sure it's in one of the online self-paced sections, and maybe check in with me about that to make sure you got the right section. You do have to pay the student fees and stuff that are associated with that extra term. For those of you that are paying out of pocket, that is something to consider. For those of you that are OG funded, that would be covered by that. Although it's really, really important to note here that if you are OG funded, you can only receive funding for the same course for 2 terms. So if you're in math 053 and you don't quite finish by the end of the term, then you can get your OG funding for math 053 for 1 more term. If you don't finish by the end of that term, now you have to pay out of pocket in order to continue and finish that course. If you do finish math 053 and you want to move into math 072 or 075, then you can get the OG funding again for a new course. It's just you can only get it for 2 terms for the same course. If you do not make significant progress, so if you just never are really able to get going this term and you don't even finish 1 unit, then I unfortunately do have to give you a grade of F, although you at that point could withdraw from the course before the academic drop date, and then you would just receive a W, which all that means is that you decided to withdraw from the course. People withdraw for many reasons. It doesn't reflect badly on your transcript. For Math 075, it's a little different. We don't have the IP option, and that's because there is, at the moment, no guarantee that Math 075 will be continued to be offered in the self-paced online model in future terms. It might be. I am doing it right now because I find that it's really beneficial for students, but it may. I may or may not have courses in the next term, and other instructors may or may not have that option available. For that reason, we are saying if you're in Math 075, you need to plan to finish that course this term. So make sure that you are scheduling your work accordingly. And once again, if you don't finish by the end of the term, I will have to give you an F. You don't have the IP option, or if you withdraw before the academic drop date, then you would receive a W. So that's how your final grades will work and the options you have there. Going back to the course outline, I'm not going to go through the rest. I'll let you read through it. Everything from this point on is standard. You'll see that it's basically identical on all of your Camosun course outlines from any different course. All this stuff here right through to the end of the course outline. Okay, let me just look at my list and make sure. I think I got everything important there. Yeah, so I'm going to sign off this section of the video, and I'm now going to, we'll splice into either an explanation of my open math for the 052, 053, and 075 students, or an explanation of my math lab for the 072, 073 students. One thing I do want to mention, if you are in math 072 or 073 and you are OG funded, in the following section, I forgot to specifically mention that I've already recorded it, so I know this. I forgot to specifically mention that when I talk about the purchase of the access code for the e-textbook, if you are OG funded, you can get that covered by your OG funding, but you have to go in person to the bookstore to do that. You can't do that online. If you are not OG funded, unfortunately, there is a cost for that textbook, as many college courses, of course, do have textbooks that you have to purchase. And you can do it with the online method that I will be describing coming up shortly. Hope that all makes sense, and carrying on to the next section of the video for you. Yeah, so the first thing you're going to have to do, if you do not already have a MyOpenMath account, is you're going to have to create one. So here, I will have emailed this to you. If you don't feel like you've gotten this from me yet, then let me know, and I'll get it to you right away. Assuming you don't yet have a MyOpenMath account, this is how you create one. You will follow these steps. You can see I've blacked out the specific course ID and enrollment key, so no one gets confused. So look at the one that I will send you in the email for that information. So create yourself an account, join our online class, and then you should be able to see all the information for the course once you've done that. And if you already do have a My Open Math account, then you just log in as you normally would and ask to join, enroll in a new class. You see right there, and same thing, take the course ID and the enrollment key that I will send you in an email. So once you have gotten yourself set up, and let me know if you have any trouble getting your My Open Math account going, then you will log in. And this, I've already logged in here. I've got a fake student created. So you log in and you can see this particular student. I've enrolled in all three, 052, 053, and 075. And click on any one of those. Let's look at 053. And right here on this one single page is the entire course, starting with this introductory video that you're watching right now, course outline that we've already looked at, some instructions which we'll go through in a second about how to approach the course. And here we go for the 052 and 053. You'll see your textbooks here, a link to them. There are actually two textbooks for those courses. You start with the basic review, and then you move into this intermediate algebra 2. So if I were to open this up, there we go, download this book, and I don't actually know what the difference is between the digital PDF and the print PDF. I would open this up though. I would download this PDF file. Either one of these works. I've tried them both, and save it on your computer. If you try to navigate the textbook on here by opening it with this EPUB thing or one of the other options, find it very awkward to navigate. So just save the file on your computer and work from there. In 075, let me just skip over there for a second so you can see. In Math 075, same idea, except instead of at the beginning downloading the whole textbook, I've actually separated it by unit. So in every single unit, Unit 1 textbook download right there. Same idea. And it's going to take a second to load. Let's not go through all that. I've already opened one here. So there's the Chapter 2 textbook. So for Math 075, every single chapter is a separate file. Let's go back to 053 since that's what we were looking at. Textbooks. There is some supplementary videos here which you are welcome to make use of if you want. So here on this website, some videos have been put together. There's Math 052, there's Math 053, and if you look down below, you see videos organized by each unit. So here, if we go to Unit 2, for example, there, by unit and by section. So videos on each of those sections. Those you might find helpful to click on when you're working through the textbook and you're not sure about something. And carrying on. Then we get into the material. So if you look here, the entire course is all on this one page. And each of the chapters you click and you open up, and there you're going to work through those sections one at a time. And we'll look at what that looks like in a second. When you finish Chapter 1, off you go to Chapter 2 and do the same thing. When you get to these spots where there's a test, you would rate that test. Okay, just looking through. Yeah, so if we look at how to approach a unit, if we come back here to these instructions, basic idea is you are going to work through those little quizzes on here that we just showed, but probably the first thing you want to do in each unit is look at that textbook. And you'll find that, let's see, where is it? Sorry. There it is. The textbooks for all three courses have a similar layout. What you will find in each chapter is tells you what you're going to learn in the chapter. It'll give you some some explanation and some instruction here. And then you'll get to these pink boxes, which are examples. So here's where they've taken a question and they've actually shown you how to work it out. Under every example, pretty well, there is at least one or two try it questions. So here you have a question which is very similar in style to the example you just did, and these try its are in blue. So you'll see these pink boxes, the blue boxes, and the green boxes. The green boxes are generally kind of like processes or rules or general explanations that are kind of key things for the chapter. The pink boxes, as I said, are worked examples for you to read through, and the blue boxes are ones for you to try. So if you were to approach a chapter in the ideal way, I would say what you want to do is work through this section, read through, read every example, look at each step of the example, make sure it makes sense to you. Try the try it questions that follow it. That'll take you through the section pretty quick usually. Example, try it, example, try it, example, try it, right? And usually, let's not say usually, let's say very often, after doing that, students are ready to go into My Open Math and try the associated quiz for that. If you want, there is also extra practice here. You see at the end of each section, so here 2.1 exercise set, where you can do a bunch more practice. If that's the type of student you are, you want to work through a whole bunch of questions, then there they are, and there's answers. So you can make sure you're doing them right. If you feel like after you do the examples and the try it questions for the section, if you're feeling pretty good about it and you don't feel like you need the extra optional practice at the end, then it's time to come in to the associated quiz and open it up. So I'm going to get you to read through on your own these instructions up here. I'm just going to demonstrate it here instead of reading it all. So this is how to do each one of those little quizzes. So let's go open one up. We're going to open up 3.3. Resume. So it looks like I had already started this quiz earlier, so this is a good thing to note that you can, for the quizzes, you can come in and out as many times as you want. You can do them over the course of several days. If you run out of time, it's not a problem. You just pick up where you left off. So I'm coming back to this quiz again. It looks like I'm still on question number 1. I think because I demonstrated this one in an earlier video, the earlier version of this video I made. So here you see a question. And the first thing I want you to notice is that if you read that question and you suddenly feel completely lost, like you're like, oh, I thought I understood, but I don't have the first idea what to do. Well, there's a couple really great resources here, not on every question, but I'm going to say on very nearly every question. There is at least one of these, if not both. So first of all, you have a written example. What the written example is going to be is a different question. You see, it's not the same question, but very, very similar in style. And it actually goes through the steps of how to work out that answer right there. So you might look at that and say, oh, yeah, okay, now I remember how to do this. That helps. There's also, if you're still feeling a little uncertain, there is often video help right there. Let's open that up. And here we have collected videos that apply as closely as possible to each of the separate questions. So we play in that video. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but there is. And so that might be useful. And sometimes there's even more than one video attached there if a few different ones would be helpful. Let's say you give this question a shot, and I'm, just to be clear, I'm going to get this wrong a couple times on purpose. Let's say I think the answer is 5. It's definitely not 5. Oh, and by the way, you see when I open that up, some various things open up here that might be things you will need for certain questions, the infinity symbol in this case and different things. Let's say I think the answer is 5. Submit. Oh dear, I got it wrong. The answer was apparently not 5. I do get a second shot at this question, this specific question. Let's say I try it again, and now I think the answer is 2/3. And you see how it automatically created a fraction there for me. I used the slash to create a division symbol, the fraction symbol. A few other things, by the way, while we're at it, that might come up if you use the Shift 8, the asterisk, you will get that little multiplication dot. Parentheses, you can open and close brackets. So lots of different things you can do where you enter those answers when needed. So I'm going to get this wrong again on purpose because the answer is not 2/3, but let's say I think it is. Nope, got it wrong again. Okay, so what I want you to notice here is a few things happened. Number one, look at this little key. This little key, now that I've got it wrong twice, will show me what the answer should have been. The answer should have been 4/7. So now, sometimes with that alone, people can figure out, now that they see the right answer, they can sort of work backwards and realize what they did wrong, and then they can try another version of the question. The other thing you got here after 2 wrong answers is it'll give you a detailed solution. This is very similar to the worked example, except now it is specifically for the exact same question you just did. So you can see what you should have done to get the answer of 4/7. So between the video, the written example, the finding out what the answer should have been after you've got it wrong twice, and the detailed solution, that's an awful lot of help. And many students find that on most questions, that's enough to help them understand what they should have done. That, in addition to, you can always go back to the textbook or those supplementary videos if that's helpful. If at this point you are still stumped, you don't know how they came up with an answer of 4/7, then of course that's when you're going to reach out to me and say, a screenshot would be great, by the way. Take a screenshot of this, send it to me, because the questions are all randomized. So you don't just say question 1 on quiz 3.3, because it will be different for every student. So if you can send me a screenshot and say, I cannot figure this out, then I will either reply with an email, or if you would like, I'm happy to meet on video chat and go through some similar questions. Okay, once you've finally think you've figured out what you should have done, click here, get a similar question. And we're going to try it again. And, well, ironically, I think that the answer to this one actually is 5. That's funny. So I'm going to take another shot at this. Submit question. There we go. We got it right. Okay, so now you're done with the first question. Up here, click to move on to the next question, or right here, next question. Either one of those will work. And away you go with the next one. If you look at this question and you are confused and don't know what to do, and you look at the video help, again, video help, written example, once you get it wrong twice, detailed solution, and you're still uncertain, and you send me an email, and I'm going to reply to emails as fast as I can, but might not be getting back to you in the first, it might take a few hours or half a day. I'll try at the very, very latest to reply within a day, but usually I'm much faster than that. Then you don't have to just turn off your computer and wait. You can click here, go on to the next question, and come back later to those ones that you didn't finish. So that's the basic idea of how to work through each of these section quizzes within a unit. Once you get all 6 of these done, then, or 7 of these, then you'll see there is always a review, chapter review or a unit review at the end. This is going to be a bigger one with more questions, but it is really prepping you for the chapter test. The chapter the chapter review, well, looks like I already made this one available, probably just to demonstrate this. So this Unit 1 review, you can see I'm ready to click on. So I probably changed the settings in the background for the sake of the video to show you the difference. There's a chapter that has been released to the student, and they're ready to write it. Down here you see the Chapter 4 test is grayed out. That is because it is not yet available, and that's because you need to complete the chapter review. And for Math 052, 053, you have to get at least 50% on that review before the test becomes available. For 075, I believe I've set that to 75%. Either way, I would recommend completing the chapter review. Why just do half of it and then try the test? You might as well try the whole thing. So completing the chapter review makes that test available for you. When it is available and you write that test, you do get 2 attempts. at each test. Also important to know that when you do the test, you want to have some blank paper with you and show all of your work on that paper, and then email that. So take pictures or scan of that rough work and email it to me when you're done the test. Bunch of reasons for that. Number one is it lets me know you've done a test so I can go take a look. Number two, and this is the biggest one, this is how you're going to get part marks. So when you first finish that test, it's going to give you a score. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Do not get too discouraged when you see that initial score, because that initial automated score, and I wish it didn't even do it, it's going to give you 0 out of 1 on every question that you don't get perfectly right. So let's say the answer is -5, and you made a little mistake and you put in an answer of +5. Well, probably when I look at that, I'm going to see that you clearly knew what you're doing and you just made a little mistake and missed that negative sign. And so I'm going to go through every question that you got wrong and I'm going to add in part marks. And so for something like that, I'm probably going to give you 0.5 out of 1, maybe even more than that, depending. I can do that often just by looking at your answer. I can tell what you did wrong. But more importantly, when you send me that rough work in the email after you finish the test, I can usually look through there and maybe you made a little mistake on the very first step. Maybe you just wrote down 3 instead of 2 or something in the equation. So I can look at that and I can follow through your work and I see you did everything perfectly. You clearly know how to do that question. You just accidentally wrote a 3 instead of a 2. I can't tell that by looking at your answer because your answer looks totally wrong. But again, I'm going to give you at least 0.5 out of 1 on that question, if not 0.75 out of 1 or something like that. So again, don't get really discouraged if that initial automated mark is lower than you think, because I am going to be going through and adding some part marks. And you do get a second attempt at the test if you're still unhappy with your score even after my part marks. But very important that you are sending that work to me. So pictures or scans of your rough work after every test, email them to me. Okay, I'm going to go back and look at my list here and make sure I didn't forget to say anything in that whole section. Review, unit test. Yeah, I think that we've covered everything there. We talked about how the review will release the test for you. If it doesn't, by the way, every once in a while the system glitches and the test should be released but doesn't, send me an email. I can do it by hand. We talked about the rough work. We talked about 2 attempts. Great. Okay, let's just talk. That's a basic overview of my open math. Oh, I guess let's keep going right to the bottom here really fast. Once you've finished all the chapters, there is going to be a final practice that you can do, and you need a password from me to do that. And then there is also a final exam. The final exam is required, and the final exam, unlike the other tests, has to be supervised. We need at least 1 supervised assessment in this course because you are mostly working on your own. You have to pass the final exam to pass the course. So that is your motivation for legitimately working through those quizzes and tests and learning the material. Now, that sounds scary, I know. Don't be scared. I have not yet had a single student who has worked their way through the course and then come in and failed the final. It has not actually happened. So just, be relaxed about that final. Try not to, get too stressed out about it. It's something we have to do. It's a requirement, and usually we do it in person. So if at all possible, we'll set a time for you to come onto campus and meet and write that final exam. But don't let it be a stress out. If you have worked through the chapters, you are going to be just fine on that final exam. And there are also 2 attempts on that final. And the final is only part of your grade, right? So you have to pass it, but it's not going to dominate your mark in the course. It's part of the mark in your course, but the majority of your mark is formed by those chapter tests. Okay, we've talked about the final exam. Very quickly here, some general things about self-paced courses. I already talked about this, but there's many advantages. The big disadvantage is you need to motivate yourself to log in regularly and get work. And when I say regularly, like any math course, if you're taking a paced math course, you really are doing work every day. I mean, obviously, sometimes that's not possible, but you want to be making progress every single day, if as close to that as you can. So make a timeline and stick to it is the biggest piece of advice I can give you. And here's a little slide I put together. Take a look. Oh, sorry. Take a look there at your own course. Sorry, my cord is caught on the bottom of my chair. I apologize. Give me a second here as I fix this. I don't know how I managed that. There we go. So take a look at your course, and you can see what I've done is I've divided this out by how many of those little quizzes there are, how many of those sections there are. And you'll see somewhere in red, I'll talk about that in a second. So if you're doing Math 052, you have chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have 5 sections, 4 sections, and 2 sections. Then, of course, there's also a chapter review for each of those and the unit tests, making a total of 29 items, I call them, to complete, whether they're whether they're little section quizzes or chapter reviews or unit tests. 29 items. Similarly, for Math 053, there's 45. Looks like more in Math 075. They are, the separate sections are smaller in 075, so it's not that much bigger, actually, even though it looks bigger. So if you, again, I'll come back and talk about the red in a second. 29 items to complete, 90 days in the term. So you want to be trying to complete one item every 2 or 3 days, assuming you're starting at the start of the term and assuming you want to try to complete the course at the end of the term, not sooner or later than that. But it's good to work ahead of that because who knows, something gets busy, right? You get called in for extra shifts at work, or a kid gets sick, or who knows, all the different things that happen. And suddenly you lose a week or two. You don't want to be just on the verge of that. So you want to be trying to complete one item every 2 or 3 days. If you can do one a day, even better, right? Work through fast, build yourself a buffer. Similarly, for Math 053 and 075, it's more like an item every 1 or 2 days that you want to be completing. Or another way you can think about it is, if you look at how many chapters or units there are, for all 3 of them, really, if you can complete a unit every 2 weeks, then you are going to be able to finish the course within the term. So now a lot of people say, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to finish the course in the term, and 2 weeks go by and they haven't done anything at all, or they've just done one little section. Pardon me. And I hate to say this, but it's just straight math, right? If you're doing one section every 2 weeks, there's no way you're going to finish the course in a term, right? So you really, really need to commit to getting in there regularly and doing that. And it's easy to fall into this trap, and it happens quite often where a student runs into something they're making great progress, but they run into something they don't understand. They turn off the computer. They don't send me an email and say, hey, can you help me with this? They just come back the next day or the day after that. They look at it and they're like, oh yeah, this thing, I just don't get that. I don't want to do it right now. Long day at work. There's tons of reasons. They're all legitimate. They're very legitimate reasons. You're right. You're all adults. Things are happening. But if you want to finish this, you can't take that. You can't do that when you run into something that's causing you some trouble. And a few days turns into a few weeks. You log back in, and not only do you not remember that thing you couldn't figure out, but now you're kind of a bit hazy on all the stuff that you had done before that you were actually really getting. Now it's 3 weeks, now it's a month, now it's 2 months, the term is gone, and you haven't achieved your goal that you were hoping for the term. So you got to get in regularly, get work done, and as soon as you run into a problem, contact me for extra help. If the resources that are on there don't clear it up for you, get in touch with me, get the help that you need to get over that speed bump and on to the next thing. Very quickly, here are the red things I keep promising I'll talk about. A couple things reasons I put them in red. One is that in 052 and 053, these two chapters are combined into a single unit. The BR stands for Basic Review Unit. There's only one test, so you'll work your way all the way through Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 before you write that first test, the Basic Review test, unlike most chapters that have a test at the end of every chapter. Secondly, these are review units. If you're in 052, you have to do them. If you're in 053 and you assessed into 053, so you wrote an assessment and they said you don't need to do 052, you can just go straight into 053 based on the skill you've shown on your assessment, you do need to do the Chapter 1 and 2 basic review units. However, if you completed Math 052 and are on to Math 053, you've already done the basic review chapters, you can skip them and go right into Chapter 3. Similarly over here, if you assess into Math 075, you have to do Unit 1, that's a basic numeracy review. However, if you have just completed Math 053 and you're on to Math 075, you can skip Unit 1 entirely and go right into Unit 2. So that's why I put those things in red there. Okay, just looking at my list. Yes. As you work through the term, I will keep tabs on your progress pretty well every day, and I will make notes to myself. I have a big Word document, and I keep notes on where everyone is at, the last time they got work done, the last time we communicated with each other. And if I see that you're just plugging away every day, you're in there, you're making progress, you're probably not going to hear from me that often unless you ask me questions. I might just send something every 2 or 3 weeks and say, hey, great job. Or obviously when you do a test, I'll mark it and I'll let you know the result. If you aren't in for a few days or for a week, you're probably not going to hear from me because I know you're all adults, and as we said before, you're working jobs, you have children, you have family commitments, you have aging parents, who knows, all kinds of different how people are go through. They have to move during the term, all kinds of stuff. So if I see you're not in for a week or so, I'm going to make note of it, but I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to bug you too much. But after 10 days or 2 weeks, you're probably going to hear from me, and I'll just sort of say a gentle, hey, I just wanted to check. I know you're probably just busy, but is there anything that you ran into in the math that I can help with? Can I help you get started again? Because really, I would love to see every one of you get a course done, work towards. I know you all are here for a reason, and that's why I actually love teaching this upgrading. I've taught math for close to 30 years, most of that in high school until the last few years. But I just love the Camosun atmosphere, the upgrading, because everyone has a goal, right? Most people have identified a program. They've been told you need to upgrade your math, and they have a reason to be here, and they want to succeed, and I want to help you succeed. So I just love it when we can get people through courses. So if I see you're stuck and you haven't been doing anything, I'm going to reach out. I'm not going to put heavy duty pressure on you because that's not how the self-paced course works, but I'm going to be like, hey, is there anything I can do to get you started again? If you have sort of taken a break that turned into a longer break than you intended it to be, take advantage, grab that lifeline when I touch base with you and say, yes, actually, I got stuck. I need help to get going again. And I'm happy to do that. So I think that's all for now. I talked probably a little longer than I meant to, but your next steps are to get yourself set up on My Open Math and start to work through that material, and let me know when you need some help. Okay, have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.